You are now in tune with
Mamba Radio.
Alright, what up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into Brown Mamba Radio. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jackson, and happy Monday to everybody out there, and also happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I'm sure you guys are all enjoying your day off, or most of you are enjoying your day off. Probably watching all the good basketball games that are on right now. But please at least just take a moment to remember why we have this day off, and pay some respect to the man, the legend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So yeah, just take time out of your day, watch some YouTube videos, read some articles, something like that, just to remember, like I said, why you have this day off, and just going off of everything that's going on, not just in this country but all around the world, but really going on in this country right now. I think it'd be pretty good food for your soul to read some lessons from the great doctor. So yeah, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Hopefully you guys all had a great weekend. Lots of good sports action from this past weekend, especially yesterday, because I don't know, in case you've been living underneath a rock or anything like that, yesterday was arguably one of the greatest single days of football. Arguably one of the greatest, easily pretty much the best conference championship weekend in quite some time, maybe ever. And just what a good day of football, and on paper, I mean, it looks good, and it was good. It was fun and everything, and it looks, air quotes here, good. On paper, because, like I said, there were two overtime games for the conference championship game, and I think it's the first time in history that it's happened where both games went on to overtime in the same weekend. But even though it was good and it was entertaining and definitely emotionally draining, I think the more correct term in this situation was definitely exciting. It wasn't all good, as I'm pretty sure you know what I'm alluding to. What play specifically I'm alluding to. But it really, really felt like you didn't know who was going to win either game. It was literally a coin toss. And again, another allusion to, some stuff that happened this past weekend or yesterday. But yeah, just a good weekend of sports, and a great weekend for the NFL. A lot of up and down thoughts about the NFL lately, specifically the last couple seasons. But this weekend really highlighted and showcased why people love football so much, and all the good things about football. But let's get right into it. Starting with the home team, the Rams did it. They beat the Saints on the road. Like I said, huge win for the Rams. Huge freaking win for the Rams. Huge win where it's just like I said, on the road in New Orleans, in the Superdome of all places, where everyone who was there said it was just the loudest anything has ever been. I think they were saying it was like breaking records as far as decibel levels and all that stuff. As people were saying that they were so loud and so shaking and all that stuff, that there were like roof tiles in the locker rooms and the hallways and all that stuff falling off and stuff like that. And like I said, it was just a huge win for them to go, like I said, on the road into the Superdome, and just considering the way that they started, just coming out and just taking it to the Saints, the number one team in the NFC, and freaking getting that damn W, man. They won 26-23 in overtime. First NFC title and Super Bowl appearance since the last one they went to in the 2001-2002 season. Huge, like I said, just I cannot state how huge of a win this was for the Rams. A huge momentum builder. If they had lost this point, would it be so much bigger than it was, but they did so well and played so well and did and pulled this one out from getting basically nothing from arguably their best player in Todd Gurley, who yes, he did have his worst statistical day, 4 carries for 10 yards, only 10 yards. He did get the rushing touchdown, where most of his 10 yards came on that. But he had 2 huge drops, one of them leading to an interception. And, it was, yes, like I said, he did have a really bad statistical day. And they did, shout outs to CJ Anderson and shouts to Cousin Sal. Cousin Sal Icono from Jimmy Kimmel, Bill Simmons, Ringer, all that stuff, who said CJ stands for claim jumper Anderson. That's easily one of the best jokes he's made ever. But shouts to CJ Anderson for stepping up big time and picking up the slack that Todd Gurley, or picking up the slack for Todd Gurley. But yes, they kind of abandoned and jumped the ship on him running the ball. But Todd Gurley, man, really stepped up big in the passing game as not catching the ball, but picking up blitzes, chipping, and all that stuff. If you watch it, he's not really running the ball, but he's picking up blitzes because and stuff like that. So that was big for him, but it's still a very bad look. Still a really, really bad look, at least just for this game. And if they had lost this game, that would be the biggest headline coming from this game, other than the pass interference, no call. What happened to Todd Gurley and everything. But listen, they did win. It's over. Let's move on from it. And glad that he got this kind of game out of his system now. And hopefully it was just a bad game and he's not injured or anything like that. They're gonna have an extra week for him to get, tuned up and stuff like that. But let's just move on. I'm glad it's out of his system, and hopefully, if he's healthy enough and stuff, he can just use this as motivation for the Super Bowl. And like I said, he was emotional after the game we saw, because I'm sure he knew, how he knew firsthand how he played, and like I said, it's like I said, we're just glad we got the W. But CJ Anderson stepped up big. He wasn't the only one. Jared Goff was so good in this game. I can't even like put it. He was so good, and he really, really stepped up, huge for the Rams. And especially considering all the criticism he's been getting that he doesn't show up for big games. He hasn't proved himself. He's just, he doesn't do anything. It's all Sean McVay. He's just the puppet, kind of stuff. But Jared Goff was awesome in this game. 25 of 40, 297 yards and a touchdown. And he stepped up big time in overtime. Huge in the fourth quarter and in overtime for the last drive, and then the last drive that set up the tie, and then just the huge, all the crazy throws he was making in overtime to get them in field goal range. Just cannot explain how good they were. He was really good. Getting everybody involved. Like I said, everybody played really, had like over like at least like 4 or 5 catches and good numbers of yards. It was just, he just spread the wealth. And I can't emphasize how good he was. And the defense also was just so good all game, except for containing Alvin Kamara, which, again, I'll talk about a little bit later with the Saints. But minus Alvin Kamara, they played so well. And if you look at the box score or you look at the stat sheet, you're not going to see a lot of sacks. You're only going to see, you're not going to see a lot of interceptions. But it's just one of the things where you had to watch the game, and they just always put pressure on Breeze, and just Drew Brees did not have a good game by Drew Brees standards. Always put pressure on Breeze. They sure, like I said, maybe they weren't sacking him, but they were getting in his face, touching him, all that stuff. And on the back end, just good coverage, borderline coverage sacks. They completely shut down Michael Thomas, who was, for a lot of people, they said he's, because of the run that he went on going into the playoffs, he was the best receiver in football now, and completely shut him down. I think he only had like 4 catches for like 4. Let me pull it up. Like, what was it? He only had like 4 catches for 36 yards, and that's it. Arguably the best receiver left in this postseason shut him down, shut his ass down, and both of those things, the pressure in Breeze's face and the good coverage, both of those things culminated into the game, essentially the game deciding play for the defense. In that the only interception that they got came at the biggest time in the game. Dante Fowler got right in Drew Brees' face, put the pressure on him, tipped it maybe a little bit, made him rush the throw, threw up a duck, and fortunately, John Johnson would just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and that ball fell right into his breadbasket, and that was it. That was all that was it for the Saints. Never saw the ball again, and people forget. People tend to forget that there's 3 phases of a football game. Offense, Rams offense stepped up and played well. Defense stepped up and played well. But the special teams also came up big. And I have big in bold, italicized, everything just big. Where obviously, Greg the fucking leg Zuerlein, fucking money all year, and you knew he was going to be money today. 4 for 4, a 48-yarder to tie it, and the 57-yarder that would have probably made it from 157 yards. That's how much he freaking boomed that thing dead red to win the damn thing. Greg the fucking leg, shouts to him. And also, let's not forget, the Rams came out in the first quarter pretty flat. You cannot deny that. They came out pretty flat, especially on the offensive side of things. Came out pretty flat, and it just looked like the Saints were able to do anything they wanted to, on the defense. And relatively, they were moving the ball, only got a couple field goals and 1 touchdown late, but it just looked like, oh shit, looks like we're going to be in for a long day. And then Johnny Hekker, who probably could play quarterback for a lot of teams based on the way that the quarterbacks have been playing this year, just clutch fake punt conversion. And that fake punt in that situation at the beginning of the second quarter was the huge momentum shifter that they needed. And if you're not a believer in momentum, that play right there should fucking completely turn you on that idea. That was such a huge play that I can't even explain. Like I said, you have to just that momentum. It's just like, oh shit, like that actually worked that was a perfect example of a perfectly called trick play or gimmick play at the perfect time to perfectly change the momentum of that. Like it was just the perfect. It's like the Rams really needed that. They really needed that momentum change. It's just like, oh shit, like right. It felt like right at the tipping point. It felt like maybe if the Saints had one more kind of just slice and dice kind of drive, it felt like, oh shit, like this is gonna be it. But that was the perfect just momentum killer for the Saints and momentum booster for the Rams, and that was huge for them. And like I said, they just They just not fully dominated, but they won all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And as a result, we're going to the damn Super Bowl. Going to the Super Bowl. But all right, I think it's time. I think it's time to talk about it now. It's the thing that everyone's talking about. I know. Let's talk about the no call. And if you really been living under a rock, there was a controversial, to say the least, no call that happened as the Saints were driving down at the end of towards the end of the fourth quarter, trying to get into position to take to score a touchdown, or just anything to take the lead. They ran a wheel route to, I believe it was, what's the guy's name? It was one of the backup receivers for them. It was like something like Jonathan Taylor. It was what was his name? Tommy Lee Lewis. Tommy Lee Lewis ran a wheel route, and he was pretty wide open on the sideline, and it would have gone for first down and maybe even more. And Nikel Roby-Coleman recognized this, and anytime it was a smart play by Nikel Roby-Coleman. It's just anytime you notice that a receiver is wide open like that and it could possibly go for a touchdown, you just get in his face, commit the PI, because at least it stops the touchdown from happening and it makes them have to do it, try it again. Did what he was supposed to do. He fucking hit stick the shit out of Tommy Lee Lewis. I'm talking D-cleater, like everything. And everyone was waiting for everyone was waiting for the flag. It didn't show up. Did not show up. And yes, it was egregious that it didn't. You have to, like I said, like just me explaining it, you have to go back and watch it. Yes, it was egregious. And arguably the worst no call of all time. One of the worst. I can't think off the top of my head, any of the other ones, but like it's pretty bad. Like pretty freaking bad. Arguably the worst call of all time. And yes, Nickel Roby-Coleman admitted he got away with one. He admitted himself. He's like, man, I smacked him or whatever he said, He really did. And yes, the NFL has come out and they told the Saints and everyone else that they blew that call. They came out and like, hey man, like they said like, damn, that was pretty obvious though. And they should have come on and said that. And they blatantly blew that call. And yes, it had a big impact on the game because it would have obviously been pass interference. They could, and even if he did catch and go, whatever, but he didn't, and it would have been PI. They would have gotten the ball at the spot of the foul with a fresh set of downs, but it would have been first down. And in theory, they would have, potentially just ran the clock out. There was still like a little under 2 minutes left on the clock. They would have, in theory, and I'm emphasizing in theory on this, you'll see why. They would have ran the clock out, got it down to run as much clock off as they could have, and try to score somehow and leave like little to no time left for the Rams. Probably what would have happened. But it didn't. And just like any other game, that wasn't the deciding factor of the game. Yes, we can all agree it was horrible. But let's just. I know it's easy to point fingers and everyone wants to make a goat or whatever and a scapegoat or all that stuff about like there's no way that could happen, blah blah blah. But the Saints really gave this game away, as well as the Rams played, and as much as they really just won that game and were the better team, the Saints really gave it away. And it was an uncharacteristically poorly called game by the Saints. Just starting off with that drive, they really friggin' goofed it on the play calling. And just really what the hell is going on? Play calling. And I know that's all everyone's talking about right now. But it's just, that's the case, man. Like I said, it's just, and it's hard to grasp it because it's the Saints, it's Sean Payton, it's Drew Brees, like just such an offensive minded and offensively dynamic and for the most part offensively smart team. And they have to let more time run off the clock and not give the Rams another opportunity to score. And that's why when I was talking about, and I was saying in theory, because when they got the ball and they were doing their 2-minute drive, up until the point where that led to the no call, like right off the bat, like you run the ball, give it to your big bruiser, Mark Ingram, and just let him run the clock off. But no, first thing they do is they run some weird fake screen or whatever, and it's in the dirt. Clock stops. Like what are you doing? Run the ball. That's all you do. You have to kill clock. So that's why I said in theory that's what they could have done. But are we even sure that that's what they were going to do? Because they weren't doing it up until that point. They weren't giving the ball off. They weren't running the ball when they had pretty good field position to get down there and do that and move the ball and stuff, But they didn't, and they gave the Rams another opportunity to score when they had all the momentum in the second half of that game. And ultimately, that's what came back to bite them in the ass. That's really it. That's what came back to bite them in the ass. They left too much time on the clock, and the Rams went and tied it, and then went and took care of business in overtime. But that wasn't it. The biggest thing that I could not wrap my head around was this was, by all means, not a good Saints offensive game at all. Just not when you think Saints football, the way they've been playing all year, you think it's just, Drew Brees throwing the ball all over the place and all that. And, that wasn't happening. And that was kudos to the Rams defense, kudos to the Rams defense. But like I mentioned before, they could not stop Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was a monster in this game. He had 11 catches for 96 yards, but it felt like he just had 1,000 yards. It felt like he had all the yards for the Saints except for that one Ted Ginn catch. And that was it. And they only ran the ball. There's a Drew Brees, couple of Drew Brees carries and Taysom Hill and a fullback here, but between Ingram and Kamara, they only ran the ball 17 times. And Drew Brees threw the ball 40 times, and it's just, and I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, why did they not do that? Like, did they not have like as much? Did the Rams, really like just control the game like that, and they didn't have, maybe they just didn't have as much time to do it. And no, they had a damn near even time of possession. Rams had 32 minutes, Saints had 30. It just blew my mind. I could not understand why they didn't run the ball more. It's obviously the passes weren't there. And I know, just like anything, you stick with what you know. You try to do it there, but it obviously wasn't working. They were shutting down Michael Thomas. They shut down everybody else. They used the tight ends as a safety blanket. They used Alvin Kamara as a safety blanket. But go to him more. Go to Kamara more. Like if that's what was obviously working. They literally could not contain him. The only thing that could contain him was Sean Payton not giving him the ball. And I don't know. That's something that I'm not sure people are going to talk about as much, and when they should, because all they're going to talk about is that PI call, and that's what lost them the game. But like I said, the Rams really shot themselves in the foot there, and like I said, it cost them. But big ups to the Rams again, who pulled off a huge win, and they are going to the Super Bowl. And in the words of the man Marcus Peters, I think we ain't done yet. So, Rams made it. There was still another game to be played. And between the Pats and the Chiefs, and those goddamn Patriots, man. Those damn Patriots. Did it a freaking again. Patriots, goddamn, man. Patriots got the win in overtime, 37-31. Third Super Bowl in a row for the Pats. Their fourth in 5 years. Just, Jesus, man. And so much for parity in the NFL, right? That's all they will talk about, and that's all Roger Goodell and all them want is just parity. But every freaking year, it seems like the Patriots are in it, and it obviously shows they are. For the last 5 years. Jesus. But, like I said, the Pats won 37-31, and the final score doesn't reflect how... Not... Weird isn't the right word for the game, but if you watch the game, you kind of know, like, what I mean. Because there was just, like... It's just, like, the fact that the Pats had the perfect game plan... And it just, the Chiefs came out, they could not handle it, and the Chiefs just did not look like the Chiefs for the first half, and it's just like, what is going on here? And then all on top of that, and then I was in the first half, second half, there were just so many reviews and questionable calls, and just, it really messed up the flow of the game, and it just felt like you couldn't really, like, you couldn't get comfortable watching the game. It was just so much anxiety, so much like, oh my God, like this happened, that happened, and all that, which I'll get to and stuff. But man, even though the Patriots won, and even though they dominated early, like I said in the first half, it really felt like they got away with one because of the comeback that the Chiefs had in the second half and stuff. And also on the flip side, which is also weird, if the Chiefs won, you probably would have thought the same thing, because it's like, damn, they played so poorly and they still won. It's like, God, it's like, that kind of, it's just, oh man, it's crazy. But if you told me that the Patriots won a game where Tom Brady threw more interceptions than touchdowns, had a quarterback rating less than 80, I think it's like, what, 70-something? 70-something was his quarterback rating? Yeah, 77. Quarterback rating is 77. And the defense gave up 31 points in the second half. I'd say you were a goddamn liar. But that is what happened. I can't believe it. Everybody's stunned. Just considering how dominant the Chiefs were all season long, and how this was supposed to be the year that the dynasty fell, the dynasty crumbled. This was this was it for Brady Belichick. They were done. And Tom Brady and the Patriots were clearly saving it for the postseason. They just full on went. They just went full LeBron, full Warriors. Just said, screw the regular season. We're gonna make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. We own this conference right now, the AFC East. We own this conference. We're gonna make the playoffs. Let's just get through. And that's what they did, because they completely have flipped the switch. They just destroyed the Chargers last week. They had, like I said, they just completely out-coached and outplayed the Chiefs, except for the fourth quarter, but just completely had them outdone, and just had the perfect game plan. They had the perfect game plan, and we all knew it, and everyone knew that this is what they had to do. And they had the perfect game plan, and they executed it perfectly, and damn it, everybody did their job. They knew what they had to do, and they just went out there and did it. It was, let's control the clock on offense, which they did. Time of possession, they doubled the time of possession over the Chiefs. 44 minutes to 21 minutes. They just dominated there, and just had the perfect game plan on defense for Mahomes and the Chiefs. And they shut out the Chiefs in the first half for the first time all season. No better time for them to do it. And it was just the perfect Patriots game, Perfect Patriots game where they just had, they don't have the most talented defense. Obviously, everybody knows that. But they have the perfectly correct game plan. They executed it to a T. And the offense just, like I said, controlled the clock. Brady did his thing. He didn't do too much. He didn't do too little. He just did the right amount, which is always what he does. Biggest part of them controlling the clock was their run game. The run game that was criticized all year long. People were saying they screwed up taking Sony Michel in the first round. He came out and had a monster game. Everyone's going to be talking about how Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead are probably going to be the heroes of this game. And rightfully so, because Sony Michel just dominated in this game. 29 carries, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Rex Burkhead, out of all people, out of nowhere, people were probably saying, what the hell is Rex Burkhead doing in there? Only had 41 yards, but 2 huge touchdowns, like the hugest touchdowns of his life. One to take to go up in the fourth quarter, and obviously the game winner in overtime. And like I said, those guys deserve all the praise. But Gronk, man, this was the game where they, as the Podfather Bill Simmons says, This was the game where they took him out. They took the car to the garage, and they just let him do his thing. Vintage Gronk catches. He didn't have, the biggest, stat sheet or anything. He, where is he? He had 6 catches for 79 yards, but God, just like 2 of them were so just vintage Gronk catches where it's him one-on-one on the outside, and you just throw it up to him and just let him dunk on whoever's guarding him. He dunked on Eric Berry on that last one where just vintage Gronk where you just can't, where it's just like that, where that's how that feeling you have, like I just had, where you just demoralizing, where there's nothing you can do. And it's just, and not only that, but he blocked his ass off in the run game, which was the most underrated part of his game this year. A lot of people, same thing, were saying, Gronk's done. He's not the same as he's been in the past. He can't, he can't take any more hits. But you know what? Similar to Gurley in the last game, if you're not going to get it done, directly touching the ball, at least have an impact to the game somewhere else. And they both did, and specifically Gronk had huge blocks on I think he had the huge kick out block on the fourth quarter and the game winning touchdown in overtime. So shouts to them. Like I said, just goddamn, it's just they did it again, and it was a valiant effort by the Chiefs, especially in the second half, and specifically the fourth quarter. But their season came down to the worst possible case scenario for them. And they were forced to rely on their defense, who had been historically bad all season long. And they asked them to win them this game late, and versus Tom Terrific Brady of all people, and they couldn't get it done. And it's almost like once you saw that happen, it's like, oh shit, like they're gonna have to. They gotta stop Tom Brady in a 2-minute drill, and then they gotta go and stop Tom Brady on the first overtime drive. Like it was almost like that's it. That was it, and they gave up the touchdown and never saw the ball again never saw the ball in overtime. That's it. And I hope this sparks the discussion that needs to be had about changing overtime rules, because they are seriously so fucking stupid. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned how much I hate the overtime rules in the NFL on this podcast and in past episodes. And I know a lot of people have voiced how stupid they are, because if you're unfamiliar with how they work, when the two teams go to overtime, if you get the ball first and score a field goal and get just a field goal, then you give the other team a chance to go down and score. And if they score a field goal, obviously it's tied, and then you keep going, and then after that, it's first team that scores wins. Even if it's a field goal or a touchdown, if both teams score field goals on their first drives, then it's whoever wins. But like in the case of this game, if you're the Patriots and the Patriots won the coin toss, and on their first possession they go down and score a touchdown, the game is over. Why? No one knows. And it seems like the first question that comes to your mind, if you didn't know these rules, was, gee, that doesn't seem fair. Why don't the Chiefs or the other team get a chance to touch the ball? Shouldn't they get a fair shot also? And the answer is yes. It should be. However, in real life, the answer is no. They don't get a chance. And I'm assuming the logic is you should have your defense should have stopped them and only held them to a field goal, and then you would have gotten a chance. Sure, but not everyone's defense is the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs, who, like I said before, were historically bad. And like I said, I hope this opens up the discussion to change the rules where it's just give. It's not that hard. It's very simple. Give both teams a chance to score. It's not that hard, man. If the Patriots go down and score, Chiefs got to go down and score a touchdown. If the Patriots go down and kick a field goal, and then the Chiefs went down and scored a touchdown, Chiefs win. They, Pats had a chance to score a touchdown. They didn't. They only got a field goal. Chiefs did it. Whatever. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. So I hope that changes. I hope that this changes soon. Sooner rather than later. But knowing the NFL, probably not going to happen. But, just quickly some big moments that happened from this game that I wanted to touch on. Most of them are stating for my case that that even though the Pats won, that it just felt like that they got away with one because so many close calls late in the game, or so many close calls that could have really affected the game. Tom Brady throwing 2 interceptions, not as big a deal, but still, it's just like that. Tom Brady doesn't usually do that in big games like this, and then when it does, it's just the fact that they got away with one, and they did that. One of them coming after Julian Edelman somehow not touching that ball on that punt. That would have been huge. Now I know that the Chiefs wouldn't have scored. They would have called the touchdown back. But the fact is that it was just such a huge momentum swing. Like I mentioned in the first half, or in the earlier part from the earlier game. Huge momentum shifter just on special teams. I forgot to mention that. A special teams momentum swing is just, there's nothing like it unless you play football. Like I said, there's nothing like that kind of thing where it's just because, I guess it's because special teams are just so formulaic, and it's just kind of like, okay, going through the motions, that when it happens, it's like, oh shit, everybody just gets fired up. So that would have been huge. Again, just like I said, Edelman not touching that ball somehow. The phantom roughing the passer call on defensive lineman Chris Jones. Just a horrible bad call that, again, I don't think is getting as much, I'm sure they're talking about it in Kansas City, but just mainstream NFL stuff and mainstream whatever, not talking about that as much, because that was a really bad call. That's really bad. Arguably, in my opinion, just as bad as the no-call PI from the Rams-Saints game, especially just because it's like there's already all this bad stigma against all the roughing the passer calls that have been enacted now, and how, air quotes here, soft the game is getting, and this and that, and calls like that really don't help their case. And that was a really bad missed call where he swung at him, and just because it looked like he hit him in the head, the referee threw the flag, but he clearly did not hit him in the head. He hit him in the shoulder pad, and that was really bad, and that affected it. But the biggest one that me and my friends and I were just losing our shit over, and I'm sure everybody else too, just kept losing it over, was D Ford lining up offsides on the play that would have sealed the game. The interception that happened, the interception that wasn't, that would have sealed the game, but D Ford lined up offsides, and just thinking about it right now, that I can't even fathom how that happened. Something like that cannot happen. That cannot happen. That's just for anybody else like that, and it's not like he, got drawn off sides where it's just, was a hard count, Aaron Rodgers style or anything. He just straight up lined up offsides because he was having a speed rush, and that is so bad. That is so bad that I know some people are comparing it to the J.R. Smith thing that happened in the finals, which was just as bad. But it's like with the J.R. Smith thing, like that, like that kind of that's really, it was really bad. Don't get me wrong, and I talked about how bad it was on this podcast. But but lining up offsides, that's like Pop Warner, like shit. You know what I mean? Like that is like screwing up fundamentals. That's like I'm trying to think, like that'd be like you know, like getting. I can't even think right now. I've been trying to think of comparisons, and I thought I could come up with one on top. Like, it's just basic fundamentals, man. It's like giving. I guess it'd be like in basketball, it'd be like a lane violation for like an important free throw, like late. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to foul and whatever, it'd be like a lane violation. It's like that is something that's like you're not like you cannot let that cannot happen. That cannot happen, you know, or it's like if you're, you know, or like a baseball player and you just like get picked off at the worst possible time. It's something like that, you know, like it's like that. I mean, even that's not as good of an example because I can't even think of a fundamental thing. It's just so bad. That is so bad, and I don't know if it's. I know some people are talking. I don't know if it's getting as much, like. As upset and frustrated as I am about it, I don't think if it's getting as much as it, in my opinion, should be getting. But that was argued. That's, oh my God, I can't even. I'm gonna move on right now. But that was so bad, and this was this really tough loss for the Chiefs, especially considering the type of season they had. You know, tough for Mahomes, who's probably gonna win MVP still, no matter what. Tough for Andy Reid, who in his own right kind of goofed it, you know, who can't get out of his own way as far as clock management goes, you know, used some timeouts early in the second half that were questionable at best, and then using the timeout too early, I think, on the last drive and stuff like that, you know, but, you know, this isn't the last we're going to hear from the Chiefs. So there's at least that to look forward to for the Chiefs. As long as they have Mahomes and as long as they don't screw things up, they should be one of the top teams in the AFC at least for a while. So, like I said, at least there's that they can look forward to. But again, it's a tough loss for them. The Patriots, man, like I said, they did it a freaking again. But the Super Bowl 36 rematch is set. You know, this is so crazy. It's set 17 years to the day of that last Super Bowl. The Super Bowl that started it all for the Patriots. February 3rd, 2002. Super Bowl this year is going to be on February 3rd. Just crazy stuff. And I mentioned it last week where no matter which teams got to the Super Bowl, it was going to be a good headline. But man, it's just, this is really, really good. We're going to have 2 solid weeks of really good, just nice headlines for a lot of nice sports media outlets. So, you know, like I mentioned, the rematch, there's that. The old defensive genius in Belichick versus the new offensive genius in Sean McVay. You know, is it the changing of the guard and all that? So there's that, and then also on top of that, there's the Boston LA championship rematch. So from the World Series between the Red Sox and the Dodgers. So there's that, and maybe that means we'll get Boston, LA, and NBA. Who knows, man? I mean, think about how crazy that would be. You know what I mean? You get Boston and LA, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers in the World Series. Then you got the Patriots and the Rams in the Super Bowl, and then you get Boston and LA in the NBA Finals. You get the Celtics and the Clippers going at it. Oh man, you guys know I'm kidding. Celtics, Lakers, but that would be pretty funny though if it was the Celtics and the Clippers. Be honest, that would be a good headline too. Doc coming back, you know, trying to get a ring against his old team, you know. Will Kyrie go to the Clippers next? You know, there's a lot of headlines there too. So, but oh shit. Yeah, gonna be a good Super Bowl. Definitely will be a preview, but that will be coming next week. We're gonna let things let more news fall in first. You know, injuries, you know, stuff like that come into play. I think gambling wise, I think the line is at like 3.5 in favor of the Patriots right now. It's probably going to stay around there unless, like I said, barring something catastrophic. But it'll probably be like at game time. It'll be down to about 3 just to be safe. But yeah, Patriots, man, favored in Atlanta. In Atlanta, against, you know, a lot of Atlanta fans will probably be showing up in Rams gear, trying to get revenge against the Patriots for what they did 2 years ago. But yeah, I'm pretty sure come February 3rd, everybody will be a Rams fan. So there's that. And also, last thing I want to say, I'm so glad the Super Bowl is on CBS this year, so we can get more of Tony Romo, the real MVP from Sunday. Romo Stradamus, as everyone's calling him, you know, now. You know, if this was your first time watching him, man, you missed out all season because Tony Romo's been awesome like that all season long. He was he showed it last year, and everyone's like, oh shit, Tony Romo's really good. He was awesome all season long, and last night was his coming out party. And like I said, everybody is going to be so excited for this game because, like I said, if we can get even half the Romo that we got yesterday, I'm pretty sure we're going to get double that, you know, because it's a Super Bowl. You know, Tony Romo, man, just like I said, the real MVP. So glad we're going to get more of him. And just please, even if it's every year where no matter what station the Super Bowl is on, please, let's just get Tony Romo there. Can he be on a Michael Strahan deal where he can go from Fox to, you know, Michael Strahan's on the morning show on ABC. He does the Sunday morning, the pregame show on Fox. He does whatever else he does everywhere. Please, just get Romo next to, if it's on CBS, keep him with Nance. If it's on NBC, get him with Al Michaels. Imagine how great that would be. Romo and Al Michaels, and if it's on Fox, get him and Buck. You know, he can somehow maybe get people to like Joe Buck a little more. But yeah, like I said, happy for that. And yeah, man, the rematch is set. It's gonna be a good one. I'll tell you that much. I don't know who's gonna win or anything, but it's gonna be a good one. But yeah, that was the weekend in football. Quickly rounding things up with some basketball. Let's get out of here with some basketball. Lakers, man. Oh my God. If losing to the Cavs last week was the worst loss that they had, them losing to the Rockets on Saturday night was the toughest loss of the season. The toughest. Like, they lost that game in overtime, 138-134, and they straight up should have won the game. Straight up should have won that game. They played their asses off all game long. You know, they just, oh man, as soon as I thought I got over it, oh my God. That game was tough. It was really super tough, you know. They played their asses, like I said, they just played their asses off, and it's not like the Rockets were, you know, just having an off. They weren't playing as well as they could have, obviously, in the beginning, but the Lakers were just beating them, man. Lakers were beating them. You know, Kuzma was fucking awesome for the first 3.5 quarters or so, until he had 32 points, 8 boards, and 3 assists, and, you know, until they put PJ Tucker on him and he put the clamps down on him. But even then, Ingram, man, Ingram stepped up huge late in the fourth, and then for the entire overtime, finished with 21 points, and like I said, most of those coming in the overtime. A huge bounce back game for Ingram, especially considering all the backlash he got after the OKC game on Thursday. And just everyone else was playing so well, man. Everyone was playing so well. Lonzo was having a huge game before he got hurt. He finished with 8 and 11. That was through I forget when he went out, but barely 3 quarters. He was on his way to a great game. And also side note, just hopefully Lonzo comes back all right. They said it's an ankle sprain. I think he's out 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. That really sucks for the Lakers. It sucks for my fantasy team. Yes, I do have him on my fantasy team, but he's just a stat sheet stuffer, which is good for enough for me. But I just got it up. He's out 4 to 6 weeks, grade 3 ankle sprain. Looked pretty bad when it happened. Had to be carried off the court and all that. So that stinks. That really stinks for the team. It stinks for it just really sucks. It's bad enough that they don't have LeBron and Rondo. Now they lose the other guy who wants to handle the ball. So like I said, it sucks, but it's another opportunity for someone to step up. And those guys really, really did. They all really did. Josh Hart did well. He didn't do it, directly with scoring, but he stepped up. He was in the right spots at the right times towards the end. Lance Stevenson stepped up big, in that role. Finished with 16 points. Zubac, second big game in a row. 17 points for the big man again, just dominating down low. JaVale McGee was good, until he got into foul trouble and they brought in Zubac. And like I said, they went with a hot hand in Zubac. Can't blame him, but the motherfucker, KCP, went. I don't know. Oh my god, I hate thinking about this. The motherfucker KCP just went full KCP mode. KCP saying it's KCP time, taking the worst shot imaginable in overtime, airballing the 3 when they were only down by 1, so they didn't even need a 3. They're only down by 1, airballing a 3 with 15 seconds on the shot clock. And I was watching the game at the house with the homies, roommates, everything. We were watching it, and we all had let out the same collective scream of, it was a scream of both disbelief that we could not believe that he did that, but also since it's KCP, it didn't surprise you and it pissed you off that he did that. And it's just, and I know that every single Laker fan, and not even Laker fans watching that game, let out some type of noise that encapsulated that feeling, where they were like, are you fucking kidding me? That as well as they played all game, that the game came down to KC fucking P taking the most KC fucking P shot ever. And you hate to put the blame on one person or rag. Some people are like, hey, these guys have lives too, they have feelings too, and they blah 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 to be nice and blah 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 and all that. But no, KCP deserved all the fucking slander and libel and everything that he got for that shot, because it was KCP personified. Everyone's saying, I tweeted it and other people have said it, where nobody kills the Lakers scoring runs, or nothing kills the Lakers quite like KCP taking an ill-advised shot early in the shot clock. And he literally did that at the worst possible time. And it cost him the game. Cost the Lakers the game. And it sucks because, like I said, they should have won. This would have been the biggest, as big of a win as Thursday's game was against OKC. This would have been the biggest win for them, because they were shorthanded. Everybody was stepping up and playing well. The people that you wanted to step up and play well stepped up and played well. And it was just like, oh shit, they're really going to do this. And then KC fucking P of all people just ruined it with one shot. And it sucks. But, like I said, they also did play on Thursday, and they had a huge win on Thursday. Went into OKC on the road, primetime TNT game, and got, one of their best wins of the season. They went in there, won 138, 128 in overtime. And that was the great team win that they had. It was really good. They just fucking played well. Kuzma had 30 points, back-to-back 30-point games. That was the first of his 30-point back-to-back games. Lonzo had himself a fucking game, 18 points, knocking down threes, flirted with a triple-double, 18 points, 10 assists, 6 boards, and just the Lonzo game, and took over late in the game, and just the Lonzo game that that shut up a lot of the haters. But the big star of the night was Zubac, just dominating. I think he went on I'm gonna pull up his full on, see if I can pull up his full box score, because at one point, man, he was I think it was 8 of 8 or 9 for 9 at one point. He was just killing it, just fucking killing it. And I can't pull it up in time, so whatever. But Zubac just killed that game, and they could not stop him. Adams couldn't stop him. It was crazy. One of the best post defenders in the league could not contain Zubac. It was a huge game for Zubac, big game for him. Like I said, and then just had another big game against the Rockets too. And just a good overall team win. I know Ingram didn't play so well. He got a lot of criticism for that game. Just point guard Ingram is literally no one's favorite player. Like, no one's asking for that, especially when you got Lonzo, who Lonzo, again, showed it, in that game that he needs to have the ball. But, like I said, it looks like we're going to be getting more point guard Ingram, just because, Lonzo's going to be out, Rondo's out, LeBron's out. It's going to be a tough one tonight. Against the Warriors. Warriors are in town. They've got Boogie. They've got themselves a Boogie. So it's going to be a long game. Hopefully they can at least just look a little competitive, and some guys can step up and at least just show that they're okay, they can hang. So that's the biggest thing we're looking for from that. And just hope, like I said, it sucks that these guys are injured, but the biggest thing you want, and anytime you have LeBron on your team, is just to be healthy enough for the playoffs. Because once you got LeBron in the playoffs, just like when you've got Tom Brady in the playoffs, your chances of winning and going far are pretty good. So hopefully they all come back safely. Hopefully they come back healthy. Hopefully they just they just need the rest. That's the rest they need. Unless the Lakers cross the hall at Staples, the Clippers, it just seems to be that part of the season for the Clippers. They're starting to cool off after a very hot start. They are down to the 8 seed, and I know only a game separates or a couple games separates the 8 seed or even the 10 seed from the 5 seed. So it's pretty interchangeable, just like it always is in the West. But Clippers were on a pretty bad slump before their win yesterday against the Spurs. So that was big for them to break that. They had some pretty ugly, I think 4 ugly losses in a row. Yeah, lost bad to the Clippers. Lost bad to the Warriors, lost bad to the Jazz, lost pretty bad to the Pelicans and the Pistons. Like I said, and all of these were home games too that they lost. 4 really bad home games in a row. So there's that. But like I said, it's good for them to bust out of their slump. They don't play again until tomorrow against the Mavericks. So hopefully they can continue this win hot streak. They're going to be in a little bit of a roadie for the next week or so. And to their defense, they've been dealing with some injuries and stuff. Lou Williams has been in and out. So that's always tough. A lot of their offense goes through Lou, so he's been in and out, and it's affecting my fantasy team also. But like I said, it's just this is the stretch where they're like, all right, let's get to the All-Star break as relatively healthy as we can. So yeah, there's that. Lastly, let's do it with the fantasy basketball. Won the week. Haven't had a lot of wins this season so far, but I won the week, beating the number 1 seed in our league. Sorry, Kenjina, I took you down. So I moved up a spot out of last place into the 11th spot. And slow and steady is the name of the game, ladies and germs. You know what I mean? We're not, especially the way that my team is right now. I'm taking it slow and steady. So slow and steady for now, but I know eventually I'm gonna have to pick it up. So small victories, moving my way up. There's that, and anyone else? Oh, last little thing. The hometown hero, my boy Manny Pacquiao. He defeated the Adrian Broner by unanimous decision. The Pac-Man is champ again. He's like in his 40s now, so I don't know how long that's gonna last, but it's a nice little moment holding it down for the Philippines. You know what I mean? And also the side note was for that, just I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to shed any more light on it. That needs to be shed. That's already been shed. But Adrian Broner gave the worst, most embarrassing post-fight interview probably ever. You know, I'm not going to talk about what he said or whatever. Just go watch it if you want. I suggest you don't, but just know that it was horrible. And I hope they stop giving this man big money fights, because if you're going to talk as much shit as Adrian Broner does, at the very least, back it up with somewhat of an entertaining fight. Because, like Jim Gray said, he's 3-1 in his last 7 fights, and none of them have been good, you know. So let's just stop giving this man big money fights, and so we can just be done with him, because he's arguably front runner for worst person in sports at the moment. So there's that. And the landscaper at my house has finally showed up after about I don't know how many fucking weeks, but it looks like a mess in my yard. So he's out there whacking weeds, if you can hear it. So I'm gonna get out of here. I talked for long enough, and like always, thank you guys for listening. I cannot thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for listening, and make sure you guys subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, big on Spotify there. Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. Like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Working on some stuff, working out some kinks for the YouTube channel. Got some big plans for that, and make sure you guys follow along on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Not for much longer. Once I get around to it, I'll get rid of Facebook, because Facebook's dunzo. Tumblr too, follow along all there. And brownmamba.us is again under construction. It should be up soon with some changes, so working on that, but stay tuned for that. But again, subscribe everywhere else, follow along everywhere else, and hopefully you guys don't have a good week, but you guys make it a good week. Drink more water. Health is wealth. Hopefully you're staying up on your New Year's resolutions. Please, please, please be kind to each other. It is easy to be nice. If you won't do it for me, do it for Dr. King. That's what he would want you to do. And yeah, like always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.